Hey guys, welcome back to the Run It Back podcast. I am your host Joy. Alongside with me is Wes, as always. How are you doing today, Wes?
Hi, Joy. Hi, Running Back Nation. It's good, man. March Madness. Weather's
Yeah,
getting better. Uh, things are picking up a little, and vaccines are somewhat present.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it's getting warmer. It's getting to the springtime, spring season, and that can only mean one thing, right? Racing is back in full swing. Um, but yeah, so we have a short show for you guys today. We apologize for missing Sunday's show. I had a massive migraine and I just could not operate for some reason. So yeah. But yeah, let's get into it, Wes. So hot laps for tonight. One of the biggest news that came out a couple weeks ago. I just didn't want to cover it because it seemed too good to be true. We've already covered the possibility of Porsche entering Formula One, but VW, just the parent company of Porsche and the parent company of Audi, VW is just considering entering Formula One. Any reactions, Wes? Like they're actually pretty serious about this. So, yeah,
I mean, why not? The more the merrier.
right,
If we could get more manufacturers to participate, obviously, then it's going to be a more diverse field. And
right,
I think that's what would make the sport more interesting, right? I'm not a big fan of the three-horse race or three carriage race, really, because one of them is a horse. The other
right.
two are, piercing arrows and whatever the hell the French brand is. But it. I would like to see diversity
Right,
because you look at other sports, right? There's obviously more than three teams,
right.
so why can't there be four or five or six?
Mm,
And I understand the counter argument to that could be like, look, it's too expensive, it's not profitable.
right,
You're probably only going to make money in the short term as opposed to the long term. I get that. I get that. But at the end of the day, it's an entertainment factor, right?
right.
And of course, as a consumer of that entertainment factor, you and me both, it doesn't make any sense just seeing the same three brands over and over again.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I love that you pointed that out because I remember at some point in Formula One we had seven. I think it was seven manufacturers. We had Ferrari, BMW, Mercedes, Renault, Honda, and Toyota in the same constructors, right? So that's six. But yeah, like I think it because VW is also the rated as the biggest car company or the biggest manufacturer in the world. Like just imagine the audiences that they could reach just by entering Formula One, and pretty much Formula One's popularity is already booming. Imagine if VW joins.
And of course, the Volkswagen heads are going to probably enjoy that too,
Right,
right? And Volkswagen is one of those companies that's trying to be more responsible in when it comes to environmental sustainability,
right,
right? They're making more electric cars.
right.
They're diesel primarily, and that generally is a different type of fuel compared to unleaded gasoline,
Right.
right? So, I mean, we'll see, right? I
Right.
don't know too much about VW's history in motorsport,
Right.
but and Herbie does not count, so don't try and hit me with that. But I really would like to see it if they can make it happen. Otherwise, I'm sure Stefano Domenicali is going to open the door for other manufacturers with the racing heritage to try and get back in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm also glad that you pointed that out, Wes. That VW was kind of involved in this scandal for their emissions testing. Pretty much, the car knew when the car was at a emissions testing site and it would produce less emissions. And then, of course, the scandal cost VW billions and billions of dollars. And so now they have this new objective, this new kind of goal, and they promise, well, not promise, but they told F1 that they're more willing to join Formula One if Formula One is will come through on their promise to be carbon neutral by 2030, right? So I mean, this I think VW just sees this as an option to kind of gain a new way of sustainability.
Sure. And I'm really excited to see how the landscape of Formula One really shakes out. Not just drivers, but also teams, tracks, everything. And having this VW consideration and Porsche consideration on top of that, I think will kind of help drive that to see a more open competition in Formula One.
Right, right, absolutely. So, yeah, let me list out the three teams that VW has actually been in contact with, possibly for, like, of course, for an engine supply. One of those three teams, I think, is going to be more likely than the other two, and that is Red Bull, right? So, Red Bull, um, pretty much has all had kind of this partnership, right, with VW and their rally cars. And so I think that's quite interesting, right? I mean, also Red Bull is kind of the manufacturer that you could say doesn't really have an engine supplier. So for now, so yeah. Other than that, they were talking to McLaren. I think that's a little far fetched. I think McLaren would just like to stay with the Mercedes power units. And Williams, the new head of Williams, he actually used to be a VW executive.
Um, I think I agree with you, Joy. I can't see McLaren doing it.
Right,
I don't even think it makes any sense
right.
for them to do that. So I
McLaren
don't know.
VW.
I mean, I'm sure just out of courtesy they took that call, and by
Right,
they I mean McLaren, right?
absolutely, yeah,
But Red Bull I can see because I don't know how sustainable their independent engine project is going to be.
yeah,
Granted, I understand it's just basically Honda in disguise, but who knows how long that can keep going.
yeah. All right,
And Williams, sure, I can see that happening. Of course, since they are looking up,
right.
what's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst gonna? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And who knows? Maybe VW or Porsche makes the next best engines on the grid, and they're the only teams that get them. But yeah, I mean, Red Bull, they're also not far off, right? Honda, they might return to Formula One when the carbon neutrality goal for Formula One is achieved. Honda is kind of those manufacturers that come in and out of Formula One, so we'll see. But yeah, let's move on to the next big story or the next big thing that's been happening this week and last week was Drive to Survive. And so Wes, you don't actually have to chime in on this one, but I think one of the I will just list out some of the events that happened in Drive to Survive, which like I'll list out one thing that I love and one thing that I didn't like. So the number one thing that I loved about Drive to Survive was pretty much the story between Otmar Safnauer, the head of Racing Point or the racing principal, and Cyril Abiteboul, and pretty much all the principals between McLaren and Claire Williams. They were fighting against Racing Point, right? Because in the beginning of the season, they had this illegal car, right? They pretty much had illegal brake ducts, pretty much named the pink Mercedes of the field. But yeah, they were pretty much just going after, and I love seeing this because this is something that we don't get to see from a fan's perspective. And so that's what I love about Drive to Survive is that you get to see new perspectives of Formula One instead of just the drivers. You get the principals reacting to it.
No, yeah, and I mean, I will chime in a little bit. I mean,
Right,
I can't say too much about this season because I haven't really watched.
right.
I'm not one to be in the streaming service game these days, but I have watched seasons 1 and 2,
Right,
and it does give a real perspective, right? Like just
right,
like you said, I think the equivalent here in North America is Hard Knocks,
right. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So for those in the across the pond, Hard Knocks is basically like they follow a NFL team and not only just talk to the players but also
Right.
the coaches, the GMs, whatever staff wants to be talked to that day.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Drive to Survive is just like that. And it's really interesting, right? Because you get to see all the relationships or maybe the hatred of everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like any sport. There's going to be people that you like. There's going to be people that you hate. But at the end of the day, you're still competing with them. And when you brought that up, Joy, it kind of feels like Cyril Abitable finds himself to be in the middle of everything,
Oh
for
well,
for
yeah,
better or for worse.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think he put it. The the episode actually put him quite in a light perspective. He kind of sees it as, he's protecting Renault, right? Because if he allowed this to happen, then Renault's, pretty much just a reputation of Formula One, and Renault's hard work is just gone to the trash if he lets this happen, right? So for him, he kind of sees it as he's defending his employees and their hard work. Because he believes that this Racing Point just pretty much they just took pictures and literally just copied the entire car, which of course it's kind of a lot harder when you're Renault, and then you're in the wind tunnel trying to build the best car you can, and then you just have this team that pretty much just copied the championship winning from the previous season.
Sure. Yeah, that was a really tough part of the season in general. And I'm just speaking from a
Right.
viewer's perspective of just watching the 2020 Formula One season unfold. And what just still kind of what's still kind of hilarious about that is that Racing Point still overcame that.
Yeah, they still beat Renault in the constructors, right? So
I want to ask you, Joy, did they ever cover that? It's like,
they did.
okay, Racing Point technically, or not technically, they actually overcame whatever penalties were given to them.
Well,
So
yeah,
they were able to kind of look back at like Williams, McLaren,
right,
Renault, any other team that was willing to like, start something with them. Like, wait, like, look, guys, f off. You guys tried to bring us down, and we still beat you.
right. Well, exactly. So when the verdict did come from the FIA and Formula One, Renault was kind of disappointed that the punishment weren't as harsh, right? So they were looking for a complete disqualification from the constructors, right? So they could still race, but the points just wouldn't add up to the constructors. And we've seen this happen with McLaren before when they had the Spygate. But yeah, so like when they heard that 15 points were deducted from each car, or not each car, but like from the entire team, and they were fined $700,000 per car. Renault took it as a joke because, I mean, literally, they were asking for disqualifications. They didn't feel that they were in the spirit of the sport. But me and Jordan were actually, Jordan is my brother. If you guys are listening, but me and Jordan were discussing that they probably would have let it go. They probably would have let Racing Point off the hook with nothing but a slap in the hand until Ferrari also filed a complaint. Not a complaint, but like they pretty much was in that force that was against this Racing Point, right? And me and Jordan were talking. Me and my brother were talking like McLaren, when McLaren, Ferrari joined Cyril Abitable. I mean, these are the two of the most powerful teams in Formula One. Then the FIA doesn't really have a choice but to kind of punish for Racing Point, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's just really that whole situation was really a mess.
Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it kind of just really didn't do anything because, like I said, Racing Point still finished ahead of those teams,
Yeah. All right. Except for McLaren, but yeah.
except for McLaren, right? But yeah, I was just kind of like, oh man, like you do all of that, you make this huge media stir,
Right.
and for those that finished behind Racing Point, you still lost to them. So it
Yeah.
makes me wonder, like, well, I mean, granted, for one of those teams or both of those teams, their team principal gave up the team and the other one just got fired. So
Well, yeah.
I would have loved to know, Joy, how uh DTS covered that. So
Oh,
by those departures, I mean Claire Williams departing and Cyril Billable getting pretty much laid off. And no disrespect, I don't mean any harm towards those two people, right?
right.
they are pretty much very capable of doing their jobs. It just so happened that
Ooh.
results weren't there.
Well, here's the thing, Wes. I actually only watched until episode 7, so I don't know if maybe like in the last episode they just kind of give Cyril Beatable his last hurrah, and probably they probably showed the tattoo. I just haven't really seen it,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, right? So like, Cyril Beatable doesn't have to worry about Racing Point anymore, because yeah, I mean, I haven't even seen if they covered Ricardo's first podium, so I'm on that episode where they actually portray Norris and Sainz to hate each other. So yeah, it's kind of weird. So unlike Hard Knocks, Wes, they're kind of stretching the truth. And
Yeah, that doesn't look right
right,
because obviously in the other media out there, Signs and Norris actually love each
they
other.
love each other. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean that. I guess well, there you go. You kind of beat me to it, Wes. But yeah, that's the number one thing I don't like about Try to Survive is that sometimes they do depict a different story from what we already see from the media. And the one that ticked me off the most was kind of yeah, Norris and Sainz just having this massive heated rivalry. There's also a play in radio messages, and yeah, I didn't really like that. So, but yeah, other than that, Wes, I definitely do recommend it. Me and my brother think it's the best season of Drive to Survive so far. And yeah, you get to see one of the drivers bare ass on the show. No
Oh,
spoilers.
oh my.
But yeah,
That's
uh,
not a selling point for me, Joy, but thanks for letting the listeners know.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone listening, if that's a selling point to you, then yeah, absolutely. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much the show that we have for today. But yeah, guys, it's race week. It's race week. So this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is gonna be. I'm just gonna be extremely happy. I can't believe
Woo woo.
Formula One is back. It didn't seem that long ago. I mean, we ended the last season in December, so my goodness. But yeah, that's pretty much the show that we have today, guys. Don't forget to check out the No Decision podcast alongside me and Wes. So yeah, we're gonna cover a lot of the recent fights in boxing, the new deal that just came out for AJ and Fury. That's gonna be like pretty much the center point,
Anthony
right?
Joshua.
So yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see you and good night.